Becca,
Chip,
welcome
thank you.
back.
Thanks.
For those of you that don't know Becca, she is the founder and visionary leader of Thistle Farms. And we're going to do a little chat about what Thistle Farms is for those of you that don't know about Thistle Farms. But I think the thing that strikes me the most about Becca is that she has somehow harnessed the struggle, the turmoil, the abuse of her early life, and has stayed with that in such a way that she's been drawn into her own journey of healing. And her own journey of healing has been to be a creative, a leader, a companion, creating places for women that are truly safe, where healing and therapy can happen, and where women learn skills through arts and crafts and oils and through candles. They're able to create a livelihood for themselves. And one of the things that amazes me the most about Becca is she stays with it. She stays with it. And she not only embraces women in Nashville, but through this incredible network of over 100 homes like Dahlia Grove and all over the world, Becca stays with women. And through that, continues to take this incredibly brave adventure of love, of grace, and of justice. So Becca, welcome home.
Thank you. Hello, Christ Church family. I love y'all.
And you have some colleagues here with you today.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that they're going to introduce themselves to you guys. And maybe since Chip brought it up, you could just talk about what is kind of the gift of the economics mean to you. When you said they're making their way and hope and all that stuff, what you got? Yeah, come on.
I'm Ty, and I'm a 2015 graduate of Thistle Farms residential program, and I'm also director of manufacturing. And so, talk about the economic, it changed my whole entire life. Okay, so growing up in poverty, dropping out of school, working in fast foods, being on drugs at an early age, in prostitution, shoplifting and everything else to support myself because of my drug habit and the abuse that I was going through as a child. Thistle Farms truly, truly changed my life. It gave me a place to come and stay for 2 years at no cost. I was able to get my GED. I was able to get my driver's license at the age 47. It gave me time to heal. I was able to get the mental health treatment that I needed, the therapy that I needed from the bad experiences that I had. They also provided me with housing as soon as I graduated from the program. But to be able to have a job with decent pay has afforded me with a lot of different opportunities. I'm able to raise my son and put him through high school, on-time payments for my car, my rent. Lights never got turned out like they did as a child, just being able to have food. But the best gift of all is being able to give back. I've been working for Thistle Farms about 8 years now, and it's my pleasure to see someone come in, and the pay rate starts off with we have a sliding scale, but to see them increase, to see them get an opportunity to learn how to make all the products, to learn more skills like running different machines, and to see them grow and to see them get their first apartment or their first car or their license, going back to court, getting everything expunged. It's just a gift to be there. The best part, it's just not about the monetary things. It is about being able to give back so freely what was given to me. I am absolutely so grateful, and it truly, truly changed my life.
Hey, Ty, what's the hope? What are you hoping to buy this
Oh!
when you said about hope.
So
I'm
let
like,
me tell you about my hope, okay? So I am hoping to purchase a house, okay? And so there's going to be 5 houses that's going to be built, and Thistle Farms is providing those houses and giving us an opportunity with affordable housing. And so I would be the first homeowner out of probably, I don't even know anybody in my whole entire family, no cousins, no aunties, no uncles, certainly not my grandparents or my mom, that have ever been homeowners. And so I would be the first one. And so I'm very, very hopeful. So I already seen the layout of the home. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be in the city limits. It's not going to be somewhere far off, you know, and hard to get to work and stuff. And so that's my next hope shot. And I'm truly, truly grateful. Thanks for having us here, too. It's been great.
Good morning. My name is Marcia Willis. I'm already crying, so please forgive me. When I got to Thistle Farms, I had no hope at all. And since I've been there, I've learned that certain things I went through as a child, it's not normal. It's not normal to be mentally and physically abused by your partners or your family members. And my hope is that I could be that light for my grandchildren and my children, because I have 3 girls and I have 2 granddaughters that believe that that is normal. And I hope that I can be that light for them. When I got here, I still believed that my security would be under a man. Like, to be secure is to be with a man that's going to take care of you. Well, I soon learned that that wasn't true either.
Hell yes.
So now, this program, I had an active warrant, $29,000 in fines and fees, and this program contacted that judge and talked to that judge for, a couple of hours, sent him a letter and some Thistle Farms products, and he freed me from all the chains that I have had stopping me, so the sky's the limit now, and I have just recently moved into my new apartment, very first apartment ever in life. Just got a new car, first one ever in life. So, you know, it's just like beyond me how this woman loved me before she even knew I existed. And that's God, you know, so that's my hope. That's my hope. Thank y'all for having us.
Yep. For both of you, we'll stand. For both of you, we stand. Please. Thank you. Thank you for coming today, Becca. Thank you for coming today. That's all we need. Becca, how did they get to be in the positions that they're in? It's one thing to applaud what they've endured, but what is it to address the fundamental conditions and to have eyes to see how this happens?
I think, you know, I've said this all through our time together, but I think it's not about me or you. It's about us and being able to sit in a circle in community to find that accountability and that healing and that hope has to happen. It doesn't happen by ourselves. We won't get there. None of us will get there by ourselves. And one of the things that I've come to really appreciate is really the generational trauma. And what makes me weepy is like when Ty says that no one in her family, her ancestors are slaves, no one's ever gotten to get a house, and just the trauma passed down, and how in Ty's life she's endured so much injustice, and how she has borne it on her back. She has carried it for her community so that her family can know freedom in a different way. And so I don't know how we get to a place where we can sit together and look at each other and start to have those conversations in a trusting way. I know it takes time and a lot of love and forgiveness even of each other. But, I just think run to community. If you want to have that hope and that, possibility, it's like it's too hard to bear it by yourself. No one can. That's why, church is such a gift, because it is an entity that can handle the hard part so it feels joyous. Isn't that a miracle? That you can hear really, really horrible, hard stuff, and you end up standing and applauding.
Yep.
That's a miracle of love. And anyway, that's all I got.
Well, I think what I want to kind of go to is, why is it that there are a disproportionate, overwhelming number of people in the streets that are black women? What does that say about the need for charitable love, while at the same time looking at the history that you spoke of, and realizing that we're all a part of some kind of history, that we're all a part of, and as you say, the trauma, the reality. I think it's something that we often skip over when we do charitable things. We don't necessarily look at why things are the way they were, and if we don't really think about the way things were, it's really hard for us to think about how to fundamentally change things, so that we don't have incredible women who are in an environment where they're left powerless and abused. So that's a big thing to talk about, but I just feel like we kind of need to name that in the room here today.
And I would say that I think on the opposite side of that there's also this sense that what theology and church work is only talking about the larger issues or the history of it, and not doing the work. It can go either way.
Yep.
You don't want to do the work and not be reflected. You don't want to just have the meta conversations in the ivory towers and not do the work. And one of the things about Practically Divine, one of the things about Thistle Farms, and I just want to do a big shout out for you wearing the Practically Divine shirt. That is the sweetest thing ever. It's a Practically Divine sweatshirt because it has no hoodie but a pocket. That's an awesome shirt, right? Anyway, I get distracted easily. But that, the way that it goes down is that there's the old saying, you get sold downriver. And that's about the violence and vulnerability of poverty, of dehumanization, of human trafficking, of enslavement. All that stuff does happen downriver, meaning, when you were going further south and when there was more injustice and the worse it got, the further downriver you went. And so what we can't do, I think, is stay upriver. We can't just stay upriver. You have to get messy and be in those muddy waters downriver where everything is turned up, and it's hard and it's not clear and it's not neat, and there's not a neat way of saying what has happened. But the violence and vulnerability of poverty, that is a human construct, but it's one of the oldest human constructs that we have developed, makes it possible to buy and sell other human beings on a number of levels. And it is, it's why some of the most vulnerable women in the world are refugees who, have no national identity left. They have no people and they are, subject to the whims of more powerful people. And so our job, as people who are wandering, how do you say it, wandering Aramaeans from our roots, know that, and it's our job to keep bringing people into community and welcoming them and keeping people safe.
Mm-hmm. So as Becca mentioned, this is a conversation that lies at the heart of her new book, Practically Divine. And if you haven't had a chance to get your hands on this book, it's an extraordinary book. It's a difficult book. It's a challenging book. But it really is about what she calls in here, the great adventure. The great adventure of our lives, which I want to talk about today. The great adventure that we're all on, whether we are, earlier today we celebrated a child who turned 6, whether you're 6 or 90, okay? Everybody here is on a journey that can become a holy adventure if we're able to embrace the divine in our lives. So I want to talk about that, but I want to say to you that as we talk about that, we also want to reflect on how our adventure impacts the lives of other people. Okay? So it's about us, but it's about God working through us. So we're going to go down 2 different tracks in our conversation today. So let's start with your story. Okay? It's a story that you've talked a lot about, you've written about. I know it's not easy to write about it, but your own story of sexual abuse in a church. Mm-hmm. Say something about how that informed the journey for you. And one of the things, I guess, straight out of the box that I want to say is I feel like whether we're willing to admit it or not, we're all survivors of something, right? It may not be sexual abuse, it may be sexual abuse, but we're all survivors of something. So I want to just put that out there, and I want you to think about that as we think about your story. So tell us about that, about coming to terms with the experience that you had in your early life and how that shaped what you do right now.
I think a lot of it was intuitive. I didn't know how it was shaping my life. I think when you said it's kind of normal and you don't know, you're afraid, you're mad, all those things, but you don't really know, you don't have language around what people did to you. And so for me, I think the intuitive part was like, I would get really mad if people were all judgy about women on the streets or in prison. And I write in the book that I realized, that when we opened up the first house in 1997, and it was a smoke-free home, and I was standing out back with a couple of the women smoking cigarettes, breaking our own rules, clearly, and to be with the women. And it was like, oh my gosh, I have a lot in common with women who I'm feeling called to be with and walk alongside and serve. So I think in some ways, like as hard and bad as those years were, it also gave me the gift of courage, compassion, the gift of humility, always knowing, when I read the story of the Good Samaritan, I had been that guy in the ditch and somebody came by. And I'll never forget that. And I think all of us are pretty healthy if we can remember that somebody pulled us out of a ditch. And so we don't have to get arrogant or, you have to have big ego, little ego to do all of our work, right? When you have an idea that you like and it's good and you feel like it's called and it's worthy of something, big ego and small ego enough to know that, were it not for God and community, I would still be in a ditch. And to have both those things. So that's how it informed the work.
Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about your mom in the book and some of her expressions. You said, I guess she said, we're all dirt and angels. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Dirt and angels.
It really means we're dirt and angels. My mom was a very, that's what she really meant. She used to say that like the best she could do was heaven was a memory of God, and we were made of both dirt and angels, that we had this, mystical part to us, but we were dust. And, she loved that idea. She was from upstate New York, and she was raised on a dairy farm, so being dirt was a compliment, probably more than her, whatever angel means to her.
Mm-hmm.
But we're spirit and dirt, that's all.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you've spoken of is that the journey of healing is sort of different for everyone, but one of the things that we all care from the wounds of our lives are shame and fear. Say something about shame and fear, and what do you do? What do we do with the shame and fear in our lives, particularly as we think about maybe things that have been hard or things that haven't worked out?
Well, that has been written about a ton in different ways, but what I can say for us in our community is that, it's the secrets that make you so sick. And what I think both shame and fear tell you, do not say it. People are not going to like you if they know that about you. People are going to disown you. You're going to lose everything. You're never going to be invited back to Christ Church to preach ever again. Like, that stuff starts happening in your head when you live with that stuff. And so the idea is, what's the safe space for you to begin to not have to live inside whatever closet you've built around yourself? What does that look like? And figuring that out and going to that space. Because you don't want to be put in danger. If you have fear and shame, there may be a reason. And you may not have had a safe space or a safe way to start unpacking that and healing that and feeling grateful for those moments and those experiences. And also, it may mean you need to change some things. And, the idea of change is that you don't want to change until it's more painful to stay the same. So until you reckon with the shame and fear and what the cost of that is, then you might be willing to make a change so you don't have to live that way. But change is costly. And so, it's like, until you want to live differently, you're not going to change. And I'm not going to change. And that's true for all of us collectively.
You say in the book that we don't ever really get over our past, so to speak, but we befriend it and we grow stronger in other ways. Could you say something about that?
Sure. That's the whole thing, right? People want you to get over stuff. Just get over it. That was at least my mom. My mom's biggest phrase was snap out of it instead of get over it, but it meant the same thing. Like when my brother was dropping out of school and they took him to a counselor, and the counselor recommended a psychologist, and the psychologist was recommending something, and my brother says my mom just turned to him in the office and said, "You need to snap out of it." And so he, ended up in a monastery as a hermit priest for the rest of his life. He's the president of the seminary. He's a Sulpician up in Baltimore, but he was like, that took a while to get past. I need you to snap out of that depression right now. But the idea for me was, if I had been a little girl and had lost an arm, nobody would have said, just clap, just clap, just clap, just clap. It would have been some recognition that was going to be different for me, and it was going to look different. And, when you go to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, the lynching museum, you can see the welts on people's backs. And those are not going to go away from the whippings that people endured in this country. But for women who have endured sexual assault, those are such internal wounds that you can't see it. But it's there in the same way. Those scars are there in your body. And they're in your mind. And so you don't have to get over it. I adapt. I'm grateful. I can change. I have a 34-year marriage with an amazing man who has walked through so many things with me on that body journey. But I think when I realized I didn't have to get over it, but I could use it for love, and I could have more compassion from it, and I could be stronger, and I could do these ways of going around and under and through, that it was kind of a relief. You know, because like who wants to get over a death? Maybe it's the death of a childhood or a death of someone you love. But, or, you know, whatever brokenness is, like, I don't want to get over it. But I want to say, like, I have so much compassion for your brokenness because I know exactly that it tears your heart out and yet it's still beating. So how do we keep going?
You speak of burrs. Say something about that.
So I was a wood turner for about 6 months until I realized everybody I was meeting was like, hey, what's up? You know, they like lost some of their digits from turning wood. And I was like, I'm out. I'm like, and for that reason, I'm out. But, you know, the burl was what all the wood turners wanted to use on the lathes. It is, you know, the complicated, beautiful bowls that you see. And it's the wounded part of the tree, and it grows those beautiful tree scabs around it, and it twists and turns, but it becomes the most valuable piece, and that's how I see it.
I think we've spoken before, but I just want to say again, as we think about Jesus' love for us and the broken spaces, I've always been struck that when he rose from the dead, he rose with his wounds, you know, and I often joke that, you know, if I had risen from the dead, I'd be jacked up, you know, and ready to roll, you know, and with a whole new body and Superman, right? But he rose with his wounds, and to the hurting and confused Thomas, he said, "Put your hands in my wounds, you know, and you'll know who I am." And so
That's so beautiful.
I'm struck with. Well, I didn't write it. It's in the Bible, but
In the what?
It's in the Bible.
Don't tell me how it ends.
Yeah. So, but you know, I think what we're kind of reflecting on here is that hope is a process. Whether we are recovering from something, whether we're considering doing something new, living into something, it's a process. And how often we short circuit by thinking we should be able to just, you know, move on with it. So say something about process, healing as process, growth as process. There's a story, you know, stories that you tell in the book that are both personal as well as organizational. So talk about, you know, the process of healing, and then talk about the process of Thistle Farms.
Sure. So the process for me of healing is a non-linear experience. You know what I mean? You feel good, and then something is uncovered, and you kind of take a step back, but there's like, it's almost like a spiral, like you're moving in a direction, but you can kind of go back sometimes if you need to, you know, circle that bend one more time and deal with it one more time. And that's great. And that process to me takes a lot of patience. It takes really good ritual so that you're caring for yourself. You're doing things on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever that is. It could be, you know, walking, praying, seeking therapy, volunteering. You know, I always think it's good to clean out some bathrooms and go to therapy. You need both those pieces of it. But good ritual and safe community, those are the processes that I think happen over time for hope and healing. And I love that one of my old friends, his ex-wife is named Hope, and goes to our, he's in part of our community, and he said, if y'all don't stop talking about hope. He said, anyway.
Is she more hopeful?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
He just was laughing, going like,
Yeah.
hope. And then the process for Thistle Farms has been, I would say it's more on an exponential level. I think love is such a powerful tool for healing, and it's a great business model. We should talk about it in politics and in business more and more about the principles that love is calling us to. I mean, that's what the Sadducees and Pharisees were talking about in the gospel this week. And so our process has been to almost just step back and be amazed at how a community based on the principle that we want to be a witness to the truth that love is the most powerful force for change in the world operates. And so, you know, strangers and friends, they want to hope with you. They want to come on board. You know, we've made our way now it's about 70 cents on a dollar just from the sales of products for every dollar spent on our $7 million budget at Thistle Farms now annually. And, you know, for me, the process is we stay true to the mission, we're not afraid of change, and we're willing to do the hard work. And for me, it is how I've understood, the process is how I've come to understand the gospel. You know, that picking up your cross and following isn't the way you want to die, it means that's the way I want to live.
Say that again. Stay true to the mission.
For us, it's been to stay true to the mission, to be willing to change, to stay, No, go for it. Say it.
Not be afraid of hard work.
Yeah, not be
Okay.
afraid of hard work and to stay with it.
Yeah, so as we think about our own lives, one of the things that's really, that kind of sneaks up on you about this book is that this book is at its heart about Becca's story and about Thistle Farms, but it really is a book about creativity, the creative journey for every person. And that's why I think everybody needs to read it. Among many reasons you need to read it, because there are some profound things that are really said here. And those three things are really interesting if we reflect on them. If we were to say right now, if we were to try to write a mission statement for our lives, what would that be? You know, it's interesting. You might think about that this week, that this is who I am, and this is what my mission is. This is my purpose, a purpose statement. And then to ask, how might I be willing to change, which can create chaos, right? You talk about chaos in the book. And then, am I willing to do the hard work, whatever the work is? So, you know, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think one of the things that you say is that when we think about our lives, we often think we got to have this grandiose vision for what we're going to do. Again, if we are, regardless of what our age is, we're all on a brave adventure. Can we just acknowledge that again? Like getting up out of bed is a brave adventure. Showing up to the questions of your life is a brave adventure. Figuring out how you want to spend the time of your life it's a brave adventure, a brave question. But you say that vision is one thing, obviously, but if you don't have vision, it's really about sight, about seeing something and staying with it. Say about that. Talk to us about sight and vision.
Well, you kind of just said it.
What?
I think you just said it.
No.
You
I
want me to
didn't.
say it?
Well, you need to say something more profound.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll say it in iambic pentameter.
Okay, good.
No, I would I mean, for me at least, is like, you know, the idea of you see a lot of stuff, and when you can stay with it long enough, sometimes those things that you're seeing become more of a vision. And I can give you a great example is, you know, I was raised with people who would say, pray for a sign and keep going. Pray for a sign and keep going. Like, you're going to see what you need to see. You're going to have the vision. You're going to have these things along the way. And how many stories, especially around births and deaths, people see things all the time. You know, that squirrel used to never come up on my porch, and all of a sudden this squirrel on the porch takes on this significant meaning because you're seeing it differently. It's how you're seeing it that it becomes this beautiful thing or this hard thing or whatever it is. But this week, you know, the thing I see all the time is hawks. I know to pay attention when I see hawks. And somebody wrote me, they're in a preserve near Carmel, California, and they're there taking care of their daughter who has had some health issues. And she said, I've been walking every day, and there's this hawk in this field, and this hawk is blah, blah, blah. She starts telling this story of the hawk, of how the hawk is behaving. She said, what does it mean? She was just asking me, and I was like, you just told me your whole story by what you're seeing in this hawk. You were reflecting, you were seeing. I was like, it's your vision. You know, it's yours. Take what you need to from that moment and from this walking you're doing and from what you're seeing and how it's leading you, and go and take the lesson from it. You know, I mean, there's a wheel and a wheel. That's probably a cloud that Ezekiel saw. He got to see that day a wheel and a wheel, and it changed the course of faith. You know, clouds parting is not a miracle unless you're seeing it that way and you hear a voice. So the invitation is to stay with things, the sight, long enough to see what the lessons are for you, and then to internalize them and help you feel, maybe for a moment, maybe for a lifetime, a little bit closer to your Creator.
Yeah, I think what I see in your life is your willingness to stay with the sight. And how easy it would have been for you to experience moderate so-called success and then sort of become the CEO, right? But I think what I'm struck with is that by staying with women all over the world, you continue to see new things. You continue to see old things, but you continue to see new things. And it's from that place of connection that it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, the Spirit of God continues to speak to you, to move you to think new things and to dream new dreams.
It's actually what I'm preaching about today. That's so, so do you want, I'll just tell you now and you don't have to go. No, but I would say that there's things in me that won't let me do other things. Like, it's just not sitting right. Do y'all know that, what I'm talking about? Like, I just can't go there. I don't want to do that. And when I knew when Thistle Farms was getting big that I needed to hire a CEO, that I should not go down that path, that would stop me from my priesthood of just getting to sit and do the work that I feel like I was called to do. And so sometimes I think it's not like you don't have a vision, or you don't have, or you do have like this. I never have had a 5-year plan, because to me that would be so depressing to think I already know what it looks like 5 years from now. Now I just need to walk every step of it. I kind of like going like, hopefully we'll have some surprises in 5 years. You know, twists and turns that brought us into a new space. And I love going into the weeds. I love it. I mean, I named a whole company after weeds. I love that. You know, that is the place where the real work is done. So it is a gift to get to come here for a weekend with you guys and just laugh on a plane and tell stories. That's my favorite thing. So I don't really need to like do something else and not do that. But what I think everybody has to do is still carve out enough space for their creativity to have some breath, to do something with their hands, to have something that where your body is teaching you too, not just your mind telling your body. You know, the way I say it too is like if I waited for my mind to tell me, go run, you're going to be inspired to go for a jog. Never would that happen in a million years. But if I get my lazy butt up off the couch and go running when I say running, I'm being very generous to myself. It's like a slow lope. My mind comes along. Mm-hmm. My mind will come along.
And I think this is really interesting because culture tells us that as we celebrate certain figures in the current moment and in our history, that we're the inventors. You know, they're sold as people who had a great inspiration. And so we sit around and we wait for inspiration. But what you say in the book is, don't look for inspiration, just what you said. It's just go out there, see, and engage in the hard work.
Yep.
That's been your story.
That is my story. That is my mama's story. That is her mama's story. That a farmer does the work of feeding the cows, whether or not they're inspired or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find inspiration on a frosty morning,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you drag yourself through it, and sometimes, the Spirit works as a surprise. Inspiration is very whimsical, and when you get it, it's such a gift, but it doesn't determine whether or not we do the work. And I think especially for people who are living in church community and who are trying to do justice work, we have put too much pressure on each other to be inspired. Like something's wrong, you're burnt out if you're not inspired. And so now not only are you not inspired, but you feel guilty that you're not inspired. And it's okay. I mean, I am not under any illusion that the disciples were inspired every day. I mean, who really does want to go through Jericho with people screaming on the side of the road? But that's where the Spirit was working. So you just keep going, keep doing the work, and it'll come your way. I really, really believe it. And I'm married to a musician. I have sons who are musicians and artists, and that's true for them. There is no creativity without hard work. And sometimes it's inspired and amazing, and sometimes it is just music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay too.
One of the people that we both love is the mystic Abraham Joshua Heschel, who said, "You are not a machine. See your life as a work of art." And so, and as we emerge, the recovery of creativity, the recovery of what we need to do, which is to show up to the questions of our life, to show up to the work in our lives, seems to be the essential thing, and it can be intimidating, it can feel lonely, but one of the points that you make, which I think can speak to the work that we do as a church, is that epiphanies, you say, come to us, insights, perspectives, hunches, they come to us, but they're best lived out in the context of groups, where groups see lightning together. So say something about our tendency to isolate versus to be a part of community.
I think of it as like a TED Talk syndrome where, one person saw something that was wrong, and then that one person went and changed everything, and it's this hero story. But I think in general, it's a communal vision. I think in general, it's a communal hero story. There's a lot of heroes. There's plenty of room for a lot of heroes. And that's not how we are telling the story or how we're interpreting the story. And I've been really clear since the beginning at Thistle Farms that I am very, very aware that I'm a small part of a bigger story. Or, for anybody doing any work in any community setting, that's how it is. And that does not say, I think it's, this vision by committee. I think, though, the idea is that anytime in Scripture there's been these epiphanies that we recognize, people experience individually, but it's happening in community. Like the big epiphanies, like the baptism at the River Jordan, that was a big group. So maybe individuals experienced it, but it wasn't until they were gathering at the Jordan River that it happened. Or the epiphany of the water to wine, that's the second epiphany we talk about. That's at a wedding reception, but it happens because we're celebrating and gathering, and then this beautiful experience, again, was perceived by individuals within a community context. And it goes on and on. You can hear, the transfiguration, a group go up to the mountaintop together. It wasn't one dude going up there by himself to get away from the other folks. It was, let's go together. And then people could see it. Again, we take it on individually, but we do it together.
Mm-hmm. And I think Christ Church is at its best when we are doing things that allow the encouragement, that allow for creativity to happen. And this is a little different for your typical church, because while we are an Episcopal church and we love our tradition, we know that tradition is something that evolves. And what I think is unique about our community is that, we're not institutionally obsessed. We try to have what we need, and there are times that we need to have more things because this church has grown like 100%. So there are issues that come up for us. But the single most important thing is how we can gather together as a community and have the conversations that allow you to show up to the questions of your life, and take whatever brave adventure you need to take. Like, that's the big thing. Like you're the big thing. And one of the things, Becca, that you say is that the final chapter is about feasting. And we all think about feasting as that great time of enjoyment, or maybe for some of us it's over the course of our lives, it's that sense of arriving. But what I love about what you have talked to us about in the past and now and in this book is that feasting always involves someone else. It always involves another person. That we, out of the sense of gratitude and blessings of our lives, that's something that is shared. I just want to get you to end on this convergence of, I think, what happens when people come together. You speak of arts and crafts as revolutionary tools for justice. Have you ever heard that concept before? Arts and crafts and you describe women who come together to create arts and crafts and just what happens. And I think it's a beautiful vision of church. Would you speak to that?
Sure. I like arts and crafts, and let me just say this, that you guys are remarkable in so many ways, and everybody that has been a part of this 6 weeks thing has been awesome. And when I came last night, 3 people gave me new craft ideas that we could be doing at Thistle Farms that would help, including like a spiral thing for bugs to put the geranium oil on, like an incense thing. And then, this car sanitizer thing that you can crochet and then put the essential oils on that. And then a big incense stick about that big that you put in your garden with Tagetes oil to get rid of bugs in the garden. So, it was just really fun that everybody is like, I got an idea for you right now. And it's like, it's very fun, and I love it, love it, love it. But, for me, you can see it over and over again how revolutionary crafts are, how it stands up to, it could be cartels in Mexico, to regimes in Chile, to, the awful response to AIDS that this country had and how it turned around with the AIDS quilt and people started telling the story. There's tons of examples about it. But the one this is just 2 weeks ago when I was talking to you guys, I was in Oaxaca, Mexico. And y'all know Oaxaca, Mexico is it's the southernmost state of Mexico. It's right near Guatemala, and it's this beautiful artsy place. Amazing arts and crafters, and also the biggest state in Mexico, the poorest state in Mexico. Tons of different issues around drugs and trafficking and immigration through it. It's good and hard place to be. And we were up in the mountains of it, outside the city, about 4 hours drive, meeting women who were doing about a 4,000-year-old craft with their hands of this arts and crafts, utilitarian, pots and pans and cups. And we were listening to them talk about the earth and about how they've made this and what their hopes are in the middle of all of it. And I felt really called and inspired, and I came back, and in the meantime, the team of Thistle Farms had hired a brand new resident in the program named Hannah. And Hannah speaks perfect Spanish, so we thought she was a great candidate for the global team. And I had never really had a long conversation with her. She's brand new into the community. She's in the residence, but she's new into the community of Thistle Farms where we work. And she said, I can't believe you were in Oaxaca. That's where I was trafficked. Wow. In those same in that same place where I had just sat and felt all this, there was a woman in Nashville, Tennessee, and she had been arrested there, taken to Juarez and put in prison, and then finally made her way back to the U.S. But you forget that the trafficking can go the other way too, when people are completely devalued and disowned, it happens more than we think. And so I was like, there's no boundaries. There's nothing to stop us on continuing to sit with women and feel that creativity and see our connections, our deep, deep connections.
Amazing. I cannot thank you enough for the years and years of relationship that you and I have, and it's fun, and you challenge me, and you mostly challenge me.
No.
But you also challenge us yes, you do. But you mostly challenge us as an institution to keep thinking big and deep and creative. And what I'd like to ask you to do for everybody here in this room today who is on their own sacred journey, thinking about life, trying to figure out what the next step is in the journey, and how to get up in bed in the morning, or how to build some big enterprise that will bring love and meaning into the world. And as we think institutionally about how we can be this strong, vibrant, loving, encouraging, permission-giving community that empowers and supports and encourages people in their life and generosity, would you pray for us individually and collectively for our brave journey ahead?
I would love to. And I would say that today is especially important for the community of Thistle Farms. It marks the beginning of the holiday season. And don't forget us as you're thinking about where to show your love and joy on the Christmas season. It's where we do about 80% of our sales for the year, and I would be doing a disservice to our global sisters around the world making stuff, and our sisters in Nashville. If I didn't do that plug, I would be doing a disservice. I wouldn't be worth my salt.
And buy the book.
It's an amazing Christmas gift, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
If that doesn't say Santa.
All right,
And you do not challenge me. I want to say that too, that I am forever grateful to you. And this is not a normal thing for us to have a long-term relationship with a community in another state. And, we do not take it for granted. And more and more, I hear people here at this community who say, I was in Nashville and I went to the cafe and I ate one of your sandwiches and met some women. We are getting to be more and more friends is what's happening. And I am so, so grateful for that. The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
Gracious and loving God, thank you for this community gathered here this morning. On this day, especially when we recognize the cloud of witness that surround us, who have taught us how to walk humbly and with courage, who have made straight paths for us in our own deserts, who keep leading us beside still waters even where we are in the valley. Help us to keep going and taking that next step, the next brave step for the sake of love, so that we never forget the healing power of your love in our lives, so that we can together make our way home. Amen.
Amen.